Commander Deho stood on the bridge of the Harmony, watching the alien ships appear one by one in Earth's orbit. They came without warning, just 17 massive vessels that made humanity's largest warship look like a child's toy. His crew was silent, every eye fixed on the view screen as the alien fleet settled into formation above their home planet. "Sir, they're hailing us," said Taman from the communications station. The young officer's voice was steady, but his hands trembled slightly over the controls. "Put them through," Deho ordered. He had been a commander for 15 years, had survived the Mars colony riots and the Titan blockade, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. The view screen changed, and a towering figure appeared. It looked like an insect, but its eyes held an intelligence that was unmistakably alien. Behind it, Deho could see representatives from other species, each more strange than the last. "Greetings, humans of Earth," the insect being said. Its voice came through the translator as smooth and cold. "I am primary adjudicator of the Galactic Prosperity Union. We have come to evaluate your species for contact with the greater galactic community." Deho glanced at Hieri, his chief diplomat, who stood beside him. She stepped forward, her professional smile in place. "We welcome you to our system. Earth is honored by your presence." The alien's head tilted in what might have been amusement. "We shall see if honor is warranted. We will now begin our assessment." For the next 3 days, the aliens studied everything. They scanned Earth cities, examined the defense fleet, and reviewed thousands of years of human history in compressed data files. Yunji, the chief science officer, watched their scans with growing concern. She noticed patterns in what they examined most closely: weapons systems, power generation, faster-than-light capability. On the 4th day, the aliens returned to the Harmony for the verdict. Deho assembled his senior staff in the main conference room. Harry stood beside him, along with Yunji and Taman. They wore their dress uniforms, presenting humanity's best face to the galaxy. The alien delegation materialized in the center of the room, using technology that made Earth's best transporters look primitive by comparison. "We have completed our evaluation," the primary adjudicator announced. "The species known as humans has achieved basic spaceflight and rudimentary fusion power. You have colonized 3 planetary bodies in your system and maintain a population of 12 billion across these locations." Hieri nodded. "We have worked hard to reach the stars. We hope to learn from the greater galactic community and share our own achievements." The alien's mandibles clicked together. "Your achievements are noted. However, your technology is severely limited. You lack faster-than-light travel. Your weapons are based on kinetic energy and chemical reactions. Your power systems are primitive fusion reactors that barely qualify as controlled reactions. Your computer systems are slow and inefficient." Yunji felt her jaw tighten but said nothing. Deho placed a subtle hand on her arm, a silent reminder to stay calm. "Furthermore," the alien continued, "your species has a troubling history of violence. You have fought countless wars, destroyed your own ecosystems, and only recently achieved global cooperation. Your social development is equally primitive. We have grown," Hieri said carefully. "Humanity has learned from its mistakes. We have been at peace for nearly a century now." "Yes," the alien agreed. "You have learned to suppress your violent nature. This is good. It makes our decision easier." Deho felt something cold settle in his stomach. "Your decision?" The primary adjudicator straightened to its full height. "The Galactic Prosperity Union hereby declares humanity a developing species in need of guidance. Earth and all human colonies will be placed under protective custodianship. Advanced species will manage your expansion, direct your technological development, and guide your social evolution. This is for your own protection and the protection of the galaxy." The room fell silent. Deho processed the words, trying to understand what he was hearing. "Custodianship? Are you saying you're taking control of Earth?" "We prefer to think of it as stewardship," the alien replied. "You are children playing with dangerous toys. We will teach you to be proper members of galactic society. You should be grateful. Many species never receive this opportunity." Taman spoke up from his position near the door. "And if we refuse?" The alien looked at the young officer with what might have been pity. "Refusal is not an option. We have examined your military capabilities. You could not resist us even if you tried. Your kinetic weapons and nuclear devices are no match for our defensive systems. We have shielding technology that makes your most powerful weapons irrelevant. We are a sovereign species," Hieri said, her diplomatic mask finally cracking. "We have the right to determine our own future. You have the rights we grant you, the alien corrected. This is not a negotiation. The Galactic Council has made its decision. You have 30 standard cycles, approximately 40 of your Earth days, to prepare for integration. We will return with our custodial fleet to begin the transition. We suggest you use this time to inform your population and prepare them for the changes ahead. The aliens vanished, leaving the humans alone in the conference room. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Taman slammed his fist on the table. They're treating us like animals. Like we're not even intelligent. They're treating us like children, Yunji corrected quietly. Which might be worse. Deho stared at the empty space where the aliens had stood. His mind was already racing, analyzing what he had seen and heard. Something about the whole encounter felt wrong, but he couldn't quite place it. Yeri, contact Earth Command, he said finally. Request an immediate meeting with the United Earth Council. Yunji, I want a full analysis of every scan they took, every question they asked. Find their blind spots. You think they have blind spots? Yunji asked. Everyone has blind spots, Deho replied, especially people who think they're superior. As his crew dispersed to their tasks, Deho returned to the bridge. Through the view screen, he could see Earth, beautiful and blue below them. Around the planet, small objects glinted in the sunlight. At first he thought they were debris or satellites. Sir, Taman called out. Sensors are picking up new objects in orbit. They weren't there before the aliens left. Yunji pulled up the data on her screen. Her face went pale. They're monitoring satellites. Hundreds of them, scattered throughout the solar system. They're not even hiding them. Deho felt that cold feeling in his stomach intensify. They're watching us already. They want to make sure we don't try to run or prepare any surprises. Can we disable them? Taman asked. Not without showing our hand, Deho said. He made a decision then, one that would change everything. Leave them alone. Let them watch. Let them see exactly what they expect to see. Yunji looked up sharply. Commander? Deho's expression was grim. They called us primitive. They think our weapons are toys and our technology is worthless. They've never seen a species refuse their generous offer of enslavement. He turned to face his crew. They evaluated our military strength, our technology, our power systems. But do you know what they never asked about? The crew waited. They never asked how we survived 40,000 years of trying to kill each other, Deho said quietly. They never asked about our tactics, our strategies, or our history of asymmetric warfare. They looked at our weapons and decided they were primitive. But they never asked why a primitive species would develop so many different ways to fight. Taman's eyes widened. They don't understand war. Not the way we do, Deho agreed. They've been peaceful for thousands of years. They've forgotten what desperation looks like. He looked out at Earth again. They're about to remember. Get me Earth Command. We have 40 days to prepare, and I want every one of them to count. As the Harmony turned toward Earth, the alien satellites watched and recorded. They saw a primitive species beginning to panic, saw governments scrambling to respond, saw the chaos beginning to spread. They saw exactly what they expected to see. They never saw the cold determination settling into human hearts across the solar system. They never saw the plans being drawn up in secret facilities, or the messages being passed through channels the satellites couldn't monitor. They saw primitive humans facing their inevitable fate. They didn't see humanity preparing to show the galaxy what happened when you cornered the most dangerous predator ever to evolve on Earth, the human species itself. The emergency session of the United Earth Council lasted 18 hours. Representatives from every nation, every colony, every corporate alliance gathered in Geneva beneath layers of electromagnetic shielding designed to block the alien satellites. Deho stood at the central podium, exhausted but focused, as world leaders debated humanity's fate. We cannot fight them, said the premier of the Asian coalition. You've seen their technology. Their shields could stop our most powerful weapons. Fighting would be suicide. So we just surrender? Demanded the North American Federation representative. Let them take everything we've built? We negotiate, Yeri said from her position beside Deho. We try to find terms we can live with. Perhaps their custodianship won't be as bad as we fear. A harsh laugh echoed from the back of the chamber. Director Jiwan of UEDF Special Operations stepped into the light. She was a small woman with sharp features and eyes that had seen too much. You think they'll negotiate? They've already told us no. They're coming to take control, not to discuss terms. Then what do you suggest? The premier asked. Jiwan walked to the podium, and Deho stepped aside. She looked out at the assembled leaders with an expression of cold calculation. We make them think we're surrendering. We stall for time, and we prepare for war. The chamber erupted in arguments. Jiwan let them shout for a minute, then raised her hand. Listen to me. I've spent 30 years studying asymmetric warfare, learning how weaker forces defeat stronger ones. The aliens have better technology, yes, but they have a fatal weakness. They've been at peace for 10,000 years. They've forgotten how to fight a species that refuses to die quietly. You're talking about resisting a force that could destroy our entire planet, someone said. I'm talking about making sure they pay so dearly for taking Earth that no one in the galaxy ever tries it again. Jiwan replied. Commander Deho, tell them what you observed. Deho returned to the podium. During our meetings with the aliens, I watched how they assessed us. They looked at our weapons, our ships, our power systems. They measured everything against their own technology and found us lacking. But they never asked about our tactics. They never inquired about our military history or our strategic thinking. They saw our kinetic weapons and nuclear devices and dismissed them as primitive. They never wondered why we developed so many different ways to kill each other. Yunji stepped forward. I've analyzed their scans. They're looking for specific technological markers, faster than light drives, directed energy weapons, antimatter reactors, quantum computing. Because we don't have these things, they've categorized us as primitive. But their own systems have vulnerabilities. Their defensive shields are optimized for energy weapons. Their AI-controlled systems are designed for efficiency, not adaptability. Their entire fleet operates on networked communications that assume no one would dare to jam or hack them. Are you saying we can actually fight them? The Premier asked. I'm saying we can make them bleed, Jiwan replied. And if we're smart about it, we can make them decide that Earth isn't worth the cost. The debate continued for hours, but eventually the council reached a decision. They would try Jiwan's plan. They had 40 days. They would make every single one count. The deception began immediately. Hieri led a delegation that requested daily meetings with the alien observers who had remained in orbit. She brought them Earth's art, music, and literature. She arranged cultural exchanges and lengthy discussions about human philosophy. She kept them busy and distracted while appearing eager to cooperate. Meanwhile, the real work happened in secret. Jiwan assembled a team of the best military minds from across Earth and all its colonies. They called it Project Cornered Rat, a name that captured exactly what humanity was, a cornered animal with no choice but to fight. In the asteroid belt, a miner named Minho received classified orders. He was a veteran of the Titan blockade, and he understood immediately what was being asked. His mining company controlled 67 large asteroids scattered across the belt. Within days, his crews began hollowing them out, creating hidden chambers inside the massive rocks. To the alien satellites, it looked like normal mining operations. They didn't see the weapons being installed inside. Kinetic kill vehicles, Minho explained to his foreman. No power signatures, no energy weapons, just mass and velocity. The alien sensors will dismiss them as space debris until it's too late. On Earth, military installations went dark one by one. To the watching aliens, it looked like humanity was demilitarizing, accepting their fate. In reality, weapons systems were being moved underground and underwater. The fusion reactors that powered major cities were being quietly modified. Civilian infrastructure was being repurposed. Nari, a young cyber warfare specialist, worked from a bunker beneath Seoul. She was 23 years old and had never thought her skills would be needed for anything more than corporate security. Now she was trying to hack an alien communication network that was thousands of years more advanced than anything humanity had created. It's like trying to break into a bank vault with a toothpick, she muttered, staring at streams of incomprehensible code. But Nari had an advantage the aliens didn't expect: desperation. She worked 18-hour days, learning the patterns of alien data transmission. She couldn't read their language or understand their encryption, but she could see the rhythm of their communications. She could identify when data was sent, how much, and to where. After 12 days, she found something. The alien satellites transmit on a predictable schedule, she reported to Jiwan. Every 6 hours they upload their collected data to the main fleet. During those transmissions, there's a window where their defensive protocols are focused on data integrity instead of intrusion detection. Can you exploit it? Jiwan asked. Give me another week, Nari said. Across the solar system, Taman led a quiet revolution in the UEDF fighter corps. He gathered pilots in small groups and taught them something the aliens would never expect: how to fight without computer assistance. Their defensive AI is faster than anything we have, he explained to a group of pilots in a lunar training facility. But it's predictable. It calculates the most efficient solution and executes it perfectly. We're going to be inefficient. We're going to be random. We're going to do things that don't make tactical sense, and that's exactly why it will work. The pilots practiced flying manually, making decisions based on instinct instead of computer calculations. They learned to accept risk, to make sacrifices, to think like the ancient fighter pilots who had fought in Earth's atmosphere with nothing but their skills and courage. Yunji worked with salvage teams to recover every piece of alien technology humanity could find. There wasn't much. The aliens were careful. But even a few fragments of their materials provided insights. She discovered that their hull plating was designed to disperse energy attacks. It was incredibly effective against lasers and plasma weapons. But how does it handle kinetic impacts? She asked her team. They ran simulations and found something interesting. The alien materials were designed to flex and distribute energy. A high-velocity projectile would behave differently than an energy blast. It wouldn't be absorbed or reflected. It would punch through. They've optimized their defenses for the kind of war they know, Yunji realized. They've never fought anyone who still uses bullets and missiles. On day 23, Hyeri invited the alien observers to a special presentation on human art. She showed them paintings, sculpture, and music from across human history. The alien seemed genuinely interested in the cultural exchange. Your species has a remarkable capacity for creativity, the alien representative observed. This will be preserved and celebrated under custodianship. Thank you, Hyeri said, smiling warmly. Inside, she felt sick. These beings were planning to take everything from humanity, and they thought they were doing Earth a favor. After the presentation, she returned to the command center where Jiwan was coordinating the resistance preparations. I hate lying to them, she admitted. They're lying to themselves, Jiwan replied. They think custodianship is a gift. They don't realize they're threatening everything we are. Will the plan work? Jiwan looked at the tactical displays showing the hidden preparations across the solar system. It has to, because if it doesn't, humanity becomes someone else's property, and I'd rather die fighting than live in a cage no matter how nice they make it. On day 35, Nari achieved a breakthrough. She couldn't hack the alien systems directly, but she found a way to inject tiny amounts of corrupted data into their transmissions. Not enough to be noticed, but enough to create microsecond delays in their processing speeds. It's like putting sand in an engine, she explained. It won't stop it, but it will slow it down just enough to matter. On day 38, Minho reported that all asteroid platforms were ready. Each hollowed-out rock contained clusters of missiles with fusion warheads, primitive by alien standards but devastating if they could get through the shields. On day 39, the UEDF consolidated its fleet. To the alien satellites, it looked like humanity was gathering to formally surrender. Ships from across the solar system converged on Earth. The aliens saw a defeated species preparing for the inevitable. They didn't see the weapons hidden in civilian vessels. They didn't see the modified fusion reactors ready to create electromagnetic pulses. They didn't see the virus waiting to infect their communication networks. They didn't see humanity's hatred and determination and desperate courage. On day 40, the alien custodial fleet arrived. 300 ships, enough to occupy every major human settlement. They entered Earth's orbit in perfect formation, a demonstration of overwhelming power. Deho stood on the bridge of the Harmony, now designated as humanity's flagship. Around him, his crew was silent and focused. Hyeri stood beside him, her diplomatic role finished. Yunji monitored the alien fleet's movements. Taman coordinated the fighter squadrons. Jiwan was in the tactical center below, her hands hovering over controls that could start a war humanity might not survive. The alien primary adjudicator appeared on the view screen. Humans of Earth, the time has come. Prepare to receive our custodial vessels. Resistance will not be tolerated. Compliance will be rewarded. Deho looked at his crew, at the faces of men and women who had agreed to fight against impossible odds. He thought about everyone on Earth below, everyone in the colonies, every human being who would lose their freedom if this plan failed. He opened a channel to all human forces across the solar system. This is Commander Deho to all units. Execute Project Cornered Rat. Show them what we do when cornered. Show them what it means to be human. And across the solar system, humanity struck back. The first thing the aliens noticed was the silence. Every major city on Earth went dark simultaneously. Power grids shut down across the planet. Communication networks ceased broadcasting. To the alien sensors, it looked like a massive system failure. It wasn't a failure. It was a weapon. Every fusion reactor on Earth overloaded at precisely the same moment. The technicians had spent weeks preparing for this, calibrating the reactors to create a specific type of failure. The reactors didn't explode. They released their energy in a massive electromagnetic pulse that radiated outward from the planet's surface. The pulse swept through Earth's orbit like an invisible wave. The alien satellites, designed to observe a primitive species, had minimal shielding against such an attack. Within seconds, 300 monitoring satellites went offline. The alien fleet's sensors showed static where Earth should be. Their communications with ground teams cut off mid-transmission. The primary adjudicator stared at the displays in confusion. What happened? It demanded. Before anyone could answer, Minho's asteroid bases opened fire. Across the belt, 67 hollowed-out rocks launched their payloads. Thousands of missiles streaked toward the alien fleet, accelerating to velocities that would have been impossible for manned vehicles. They were simple kinetic kill vehicles, just mass and momentum, but they were moving at a significant fraction of light speed. The alien defensive AI detected the incoming projectiles immediately. It calculated trajectories, assessed threat levels, and activated shields. The AI had defended against millions of simulated attacks over thousands of years. It was perfect at its job, but it had never fought against weapons this primitive. The shields were designed to disperse energy attacks, to redirect plasma bolts and absorb laser fire. The incoming missiles were just dumb metal moving very fast. The shields tried to stop them the way they would stop an energy weapon. It wasn't enough. The first wave of missiles punched through the shields like they weren't there. Alien ships that had survived 10,000 years of peace suddenly had holes torn through their hulls. Atmosphere vented into space. Ships that had never been damaged suddenly found themselves bleeding air and crew. Evasive maneuvers, the primary adjudicator ordered. But the fleet's formation was designed for intimidation, not combat. The ships were too close together, and the AI-controlled navigation systems took precious seconds to recalculate safe paths. That's, when Taman and the human fighter squadrons attacked. 300 fighters launched from Earth and the lunar bases. They came in fast and chaotic, their flight patterns deliberately random. The alien defensive AI tried to track them, tried to predict their movements and target them efficiently. But the human pilots weren't flying efficiently. They were flying crazy. They made turns that put unnecessary stress on their ships. They accelerated when they should have braked. They broke every rule of optimal space combat. The AI couldn't predict them because their tactics made no sense. And while it was trying to calculate their illogical movements, the pilots got close enough to launch their weapons. Fox 3, Taman shouted into his comm, launching a cluster of missiles at an alien destroyer. The missiles were old-fashioned, chemical-propelled weapons that the aliens had dismissed as harmless. But at close range, with the shields already weakened by the kinetic bombardment, they did devastating damage. The alien destroyer's port side exploded. Secondary explosions rippled along its hull as internal systems failed. The ship began to drift, trailing debris and frozen atmosphere. "This is impossible," the primary adjudicator said, watching its fleet take damage from beings it had thought were primitive. "How are they penetrating our shields?" Its tactical officer pulled up analysis. "The shields are functioning correctly, but they're designed for energy weapons. These projectiles are moving too fast and hitting too hard. The shields can't disperse the kinetic energy quickly enough." Across the battlefield, Nari activated her virus. The corrupted data she had been seeding into alien communications for days suddenly activated. It didn't shut down their systems. That would have been too obvious and would have been caught immediately. Instead, it created tiny delays in their processing. A targeting solution that should have taken a microsecond now took 10 microseconds. A shield adjustment that should have been instant now lagged by a fraction of a second. Individually, these delays were almost meaningless. But in combat, with thousands of calculations happening simultaneously, they added up. Human weapons that should have been intercepted got through. Alien counterattacks that should have hit missed by centimeters. The perfect efficiency of the alien fleet began to crack. On Earth, the cities stayed dark. The EMP had fried most surface electronics, including many human systems. It was a price Deho had been willing to pay. Better to be blind than to let the aliens see. But underground and underwater, Earth's hidden weapons came online. What the aliens had thought were decommissioned military bases revealed their true purpose. Railgun artillery, buried in mountains and hidden beneath oceans, began firing. The railguns used electromagnetic coils to accelerate projectiles to enormous velocities. They were old technology, something humanity had developed decades ago and then mostly abandoned because they required too much power. But Earth's entire power grid had been redesigned to feed these weapons. Tungsten rods the size of telephone poles flew up from Earth's surface. They didn't need explosives. At the speeds they were moving, kinetic energy was enough. When they hit hard. An alien cruiser took a railgun round amidships. The projectile punched completely through the ship, entering one side and exiting the other. The ship broke apart, its structural integrity compromised. Escape pods began launching as the crew abandoned ship. Deho watched from the Harmony as the battle unfolded. It was chaos, nothing like the clean tactical simulations they had run. Ships on both sides were dying. The casualty reports coming in from the human fleet were devastating. But the aliens were suffering too, and that was something they had never expected. "Sir, the alien flagship is moving," Yunji reported. "It's withdrawing from the battle." Deho saw it on the tactical display. The primary adjudicator's massive command ship was backing away from Earth, trying to get clear of the engagement zone. The rest of the alien fleet began to follow, trying to regroup. "Don't let them retreat in an orderly fashion," Deho ordered. "All fighters press the attack. Make them run." Taman heard the order and grinned fiercely inside his cockpit. His fighter was damaged, his shields were nearly gone, and he was flying on instinct and prayer. But he wasn't about to let the aliens retreat without a fight. He led his squadron in pursuit of the withdrawing alien ships, harrying them with missile fire and forcing them to keep their shields active. Other squadrons joined him, turning the alien retreat into a rout. That's when Unji made her move. Her science vessel, the Discovery, had been hanging back from the main battle, seemingly trying to stay out of danger. The aliens had noted it and dismissed it as a non-combatant vessel. They didn't know that the Discovery had been modified over the past 40 days. Its fusion reactor had been completely rebuilt, turned into something that was barely controlled. Yunji had told Deho it was suicide, and he had agreed. She had volunteered anyway. "This is Commander Yunji to all human vessels," she broadcast on an encrypted channel. "Evacuating the Discovery now. Operation Bright Light is active." Her crew scrambled for the escape pods. They had practiced this evacuation dozens of times. They moved with practiced efficiency, abandoning the ship in under 3 minutes. The Discovery continued on its course, now completely automated. It drifted toward the alien flagship, looking like a damaged vessel trying to reach safety. The aliens saw it coming and dismissed it as non-threatening. Just another primitive human ship that had been caught in the battle. Yunji watched from her escape pod as the Discovery passed within a kilometer of the alien flagship. Then she triggered the reactor overload. The explosion wasn't nuclear, but it was close. The fusion reactor tore itself apart, releasing all of its energy in a single catastrophic moment. The blast wave expanded outward, a sphere of superheated plasma that engulfed everything nearby. The alien flagship's shields absorbed most of the blast, but shields were designed to dissipate energy, not to withstand an explosion from point-blank range. The sheer volume of energy overwhelmed the emitters. The shields failed. Without shields, the flagship's hull took the full force of the explosion. Armor plating designed to withstand energy weapons buckled and melted. Internal systems failed. The entire starboard side of the massive ship was scorched and blackened. The flagship didn't explode, but it was crippled. It began to drift, its main engines offline, emergency systems struggling to maintain life support. The primary adjudicator picked itself up from the floor where the explosion had thrown it. Alarms were screaming. The bridge crew was shouting damage reports. Through the smoke and chaos, it stared at the tactical display showing its crippled fleet. Half of the custodial force was damaged or destroyed. The rest was scattered, withdrawing in disorder. And the humans were still fighting, still pressing the attack despite their own heavy losses. "This is impossible," it said again. "They're primitive. They can't do this." But they were doing it. The species the Galactic Prosperity Union had dismissed as children were tearing apart a fleet that had intimidated 100 worlds. Daiho opened a broadcast on all frequencies, knowing the aliens would hear it. His voice was cold and hard. "This is Commander Daiho of the United Earth Defense Fleet to all alien vessels. You came to take our freedom. You thought we were too weak to resist. You were wrong. You forgot that the most dangerous thing in the universe is a species with nothing to lose." He paused, letting his words sink in. Around him, his bridge crew waited in silence. "You can withdraw and leave our system. Or you can stay and find out what happens when you push humans too far. Choose quickly, because we're done asking nicely." The alien fleet continued its retreat, pulling back to the outer solar system. They needed time to regroup, to understand what had happened, to figure out how primitive beings had hurt them so badly. On the Harmony, Daiho allowed himself a moment of relief. They had survived the first engagement. But this was far from over. The aliens wouldn't give up easily. They would call for reinforcements. They would come back with bigger fleets and better tactics. Jiwan appeared on his screen from Tactical Command. "Good work, Commander. But you know what comes next." "Yes," Daiho said. "We can't let them regroup. We can't give them time to learn from their mistakes." "Then we take the fight to them," Jiwan said. "We make sure every species in the galaxy hears about this. We make sure everyone knows what happens when you try to take Earth." Hyeri, standing beside Daiho, looked at the casualty report scrolling across her screen. Thousands dead in the first engagement, millions affected by the EMP that had darkened Earth. And this was just the beginning. "Was it worth it?" she asked quietly. Daiho looked at her. "We're still free." "Yes, it was worth it." On Earth below, in the darkness of the power outage, people looked up at the sky. They couldn't see the battle happening in orbit, but they knew what was happening. Humanity was fighting for its survival, and despite everything, despite the fear and the losses, they felt something they hadn't felt in 40 days. Hope. 3 weeks after the battle for Earth, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from 17 species gathered in the orbital station that served as the center of their civilization. None of them had expected to be here discussing a military defeat. The custodial fleet was repelled, the primary adjudicator reported, its injuries still visible despite medical treatment. The humans used primitive but effective tactics. Our shields were not designed to counter kinetic weapons of that magnitude. A tall, crystalline being spoke up. "How many ships did we lose?" 143 destroyed or disabled. Another 72 damaged but repairable. The humans lost approximately 80 vessels and suffered massive infrastructure damage on their homeworld. "Then we achieved our objective," the crystalline being said. "They are weakened. We should send a larger force to complete the occupation." "I must counsel against that approach," said a being that looked like floating lights. "The humans demonstrated a willingness to sacrifice their own infrastructure to resist us. They destroyed their power grid to create an electromagnetic weapon. That level of dedication is concerning." The primary adjudicator nodded. "They also displayed tactical creativity we did not anticipate. Their flight patterns were chaotic and inefficient, which made them unpredictable. Our defensive systems could not adapt." "Then we adapt," another representative said. "We study their tactics and develop countermeasures. We send the pacification fleet." A murmur went through the chamber. The pacification fleet was something that hadn't been deployed in over 1,000 years. It was designed to suppress rebellions and force compliance from species that refused to accept council authority. "If we send the pacification fleet, we are essentially declaring the humans a threat to galactic peace," the floating light said. "That designation has consequences." "They attacked our ships," the primary adjudicator pointed out. "What would you call that?" "Self-defense," the lights replied. "We attempted to take their sovereignty by force. They resisted. Perhaps we should consider negotiating with them as equals." "Equals?" The crystalline being's voice was sharp. "They lack faster-than-light travel. They use kinetic weapons and chemical explosives. They are not our equals." While the council debated, humanity was preparing for the next fight. Daiho knew the aliens wouldn't give up easily. They had too much pride, too much invested in their view of the galaxy's order. The humans had embarrassed them, and that would demand a response. In a secret facility beneath the lunar surface, Jiwan briefed her new command team. She had been promoted to Admiral of Special Operations, which meant she now controlled everything humanity was doing to prepare for the inevitable alien counterattack. "We can't win a straight fight," she told the assembled officers. "The aliens have thousands of ships. Once they get over their shock and start taking us seriously, they'll bring overwhelming force. So we don't fight straight." She pulled up a map of the local stellar region. "The aliens have supply lines just like any military force. They have communication hubs, refueling stations, and support vessels. Those are softer targets than warships, and destroying them will hurt the aliens more than destroying another cruiser." Commander Soman, newly assigned to lead the experimental stealth ship Retribution, studied the map. "You want us to raid their logistics?" "I want you to make them bleed," Jiwan replied. "I want every alien vessel to be looking over its shoulder. I want them to be afraid to travel alone. I want them to understand that occupying Earth isn't just difficult, it's impossible." Across the table, Kyung, a strategic analyst who had predicted the alien fleet's movements with uncanny accuracy, raised a concern. "If we attack their supply lines, they'll escalate. They might decide we're too dangerous to live with." "They might," Jiwan agreed. "But if we don't fight, we definitely lose our freedom. I'd rather take the risk." The Retribution launched 2 days later. It was a strange hybrid of human engineering and salvaged alien technology. Yoonji's team had studied the wreckage from the battle and learned how to build a crude stealth system that could fool alien sensors. The ship wasn't invisible, but it was hard to detect, especially if the aliens weren't looking for it. Soman commanded a crew of volunteers, all of whom understood they might not come back. They traveled to the edge of the solar system, then beyond, following the trail the alien fleet had left when it retreated. 3 days out, they found their first target, a supply convoy. 5 transport ships accompanied by 2 escort vessels. The transports were carrying replacement parts and supplies for the damaged alien fleet. "We can take them," Soman said, studying the tactical display. "But if we do, there's no going back. This is the line. Once we cross it, we're committed." Her tactical officer looked at her steadily. "We crossed that line when they tried to take Earth." Soman nodded and gave the order to attack. The Retribution fired its weapons, modified railguns using alien power systems to increase their velocity even further. The shots crossed the distance at relativistic speeds. The first transport never knew what hit it. The railgun round punched through its hull and detonated the fusion core. The ship exploded in a brilliant flash. The second transport tried to activate its shields, but the Retribution was already firing again. The escort vessels responded, but they were designed to protect against energy weapons and boarding parties, not high-velocity projectile attacks from a ship they could barely detect. Within minutes, the entire convoy was destroyed or disabled. Soman didn't wait around to confirm the kills. The Retribution fled at maximum speed before alien reinforcements could arrive. As they retreated, they broadcast a message on all alien frequencies. "This is the crew of the human ship Retribution. You tried to take our freedom. We're taking your peace. Every supply ship, every transport, every vulnerable target in your fleet is now at risk. You wanted to teach us to be proper members of galactic society. Let us teach you what happens when you threaten the wrong species." The message was Jiwan's idea. She wanted the aliens to know that humans weren't just defending Earth. They were taking the fight to the enemy. The emergency session of the United Earth Council lasted 18 hours. Representatives from every nation, every colony, every corporate alliance gathered in Geneva beneath layers of electromagnetic shielding designed to block the alien satellites. Daeho stood at the central podium, exhausted but focused, as world leaders debated humanity's fate. "We cannot fight them," said the premier of the Asian coalition. "You've seen their technology. Their shields could stop our most powerful weapons. Fighting would be suicide. So we just surrender?" demanded the North American Federation representative. "Let them take everything we've built? We negotiate," Yeri said from her position beside Daeho. "We try to find terms we can live with. Perhaps their custodianship won't be as bad as we fear." A harsh laugh echoed from the back of the chamber. Director Jiwan of UEDF Special Operations stepped into the light. She was a small woman with sharp features and eyes that had seen too much. "You think they'll negotiate? They've already told us no. They're coming to take control, not to discuss terms. Then what do you suggest? The Premier asked. Jiwan walked to the podium, and Deho stepped aside. She looked out at the assembled leaders with an expression of cold calculation. We make them think we're surrendering. We stall for time, and we prepare for war. The chamber erupted in arguments. Jiwan let them shout for a minute, then raised her hand. Listen to me. I've spent 30 years studying asymmetric warfare, learning how weaker forces defeat stronger ones. The aliens have better technology, yes, but they have a fatal weakness. They've been at peace for 10,000 years. They've forgotten how to fight a species that refuses to die quietly. You're talking about resisting a force that could destroy our entire planet, someone said. I'm talking about making sure they pay so dearly for taking Earth that no one in the galaxy ever tries it again, Jiwan replied. Commander Deho, tell them what you observed. Deho returned to the podium. During our meetings with the aliens, I watched how they assessed us. They looked at our weapons, our ships, our power systems. They measured everything against their own technology and found us lacking. But they never asked about our tactics. They never inquired about our military history or our strategic thinking. They saw our kinetic weapons and nuclear devices and dismissed them as primitive. They never wondered why we developed so many different ways to kill each other. Yunji stepped forward. I've analyzed their scans. They're looking for specific technological markers, faster than light drives, directed energy weapons, antimatter reactors, quantum computing. Because we don't have these things, they've categorized us as primitive. But their own systems have vulnerabilities. Their defensive shields are optimized for energy weapons. Their AI-controlled systems are designed for efficiency, not adaptability. Their entire fleet operates on networked communications that assume no one would dare to jam or hack them. Are you saying we can actually fight them? The Premier asked. I'm saying we can make them bleed, Jiwan replied. And if we're smart about it, we can make them decide that Earth isn't worth the cost. The debate continued for hours, but eventually the council reached a decision. They would try Jiwan's plan. They had 40 days. They would make every single one count. The deception began immediately. Hieri led a delegation that requested daily meetings with the alien observers who had remained in orbit. She brought them Earth's art, music, and literature. She arranged cultural exchanges and lengthy discussions about human philosophy. She kept them busy and distracted while appearing eager to cooperate. Meanwhile, the real work happened in secret. Jiwan assembled a team of the best military minds from across Earth and all its colonies. They called it Project Cornered Rat, a name that captured exactly what humanity was, a cornered animal with no choice but to fight. In the asteroid belt, a miner named Minho received classified orders. He was a veteran of the Titan blockade, and he understood immediately what was being asked. His mining company controlled 67 large asteroids scattered across the belt. Within days, his crews began hollowing them out, creating hidden chambers inside the massive rocks. To the alien satellites, it looked like normal mining operations. They didn't see the weapons being installed inside. Kinetic kill vehicles, Minho explained to his foreman. No power signatures, no energy weapons, just mass and velocity. The alien sensors will dismiss them as space debris until it's too late. On Earth, military installations went dark one by one. To the watching aliens, it looked like humanity was demilitarizing, accepting their fate. In reality, weapons systems were being moved underground and underwater. The fusion reactors that powered major cities were being quietly modified. Civilian infrastructure was being repurposed. Nari, a young cyber warfare specialist, worked from a bunker beneath Seoul. She was 23 years old and had never thought her skills would be needed for anything more than corporate security. Now she was trying to hack an alien communication network that was thousands of years more advanced than anything humanity had created. It's like trying to break into a bank vault with a toothpick, she muttered, staring at streams of incomprehensible code. But Nari had an advantage the aliens didn't expect: desperation. She worked 18-hour days, learning the patterns of alien data transmission. She couldn't read their language or understand their encryption, but she could see the rhythm of their communications. She could identify when data was sent, how much, and to where. After 12 days, she found something. The alien satellites transmit on a predictable schedule, she reported to Jiwan. Every 6 hours, they upload their collected data to the main fleet. During those transmissions, there's a window where their defensive protocols are focused on data integrity instead of intrusion detection. Can you exploit it? Jiwan asked. Give me another week, Nari said. Across the solar system, Taman led a quiet revolution in the UEDF fighter corps. He gathered pilots in small groups and taught them something the aliens would never expect: how to fight without computer assistance. Their defensive AI is faster than anything we have, he explained to a group of pilots in a lunar training facility. But it's predictable. It calculates the most efficient solution and executes it perfectly. We're going to be inefficient. We're going to be random. We're going to do things that don't make tactical sense, and that's exactly why it will work. The pilots practiced flying manually, making decisions based on instinct instead of computer calculations. They learned to accept risk, to make sacrifices, to think like the ancient fighter pilots who had fought in Earth's atmosphere with nothing but their skills and courage. The alien communication hub hung in space like a small moon, bristling with antenna arrays and transmission dishes. It was the nerve center for all Galactic Council operations in this sector. Every order, every piece of intelligence, every coordination between ships passed through its systems. Without it, the pacification fleet would be blind and scattered. Soman studied the hub from the bridge of the Retribution, currently hiding behind a large asteroid. The defenses are heavier than we expected. 3 battleships, a dozen escort vessels, and automated weapon platforms all around the hub itself. Can we get through? Her tactical officer asked. No, Soman admitted. Not quietly anyway. But we don't need to be quiet anymore. We just need to destroy that hub. Deho's plan was simple but brutal. While the main human fleet engaged the pacification fleet at Earth, the Retribution and 2 other stealth ships would strike at the communication hub. If they could destroy it, the alien fleet would lose coordination with the rest of the Galactic Council. No reinforcements. No updated orders. Just the forces already committed. The main fleet is engaging now, Soman's communications officer reported. Commander Deho sends his regards and says not to be late. Soman smiled grimly. Tell him we'll be fashionably on time. All ships begin the attack run. At Earth, the battle was already raging. The pacification fleet had arrived expecting organized resistance. What they found was chaos. Human ships attacked from every direction, using tactics that made no logical sense. Fighters flew kamikaze runs. Damaged vessels rammed into alien formations instead of retreating. Civilian ships rigged with explosives pretended to be fleeing refugees, then detonated when alien ships moved to intercept them. Taman led his squadron through a formation of alien troop transports, firing everything they had. Remember, make them afraid. Show them what we're willing to do. His fighter took a hit and began losing pressure. He could have ejected, tried to survive. Instead, he aimed his crippled ship at the nearest transport and hit maximum thrust. The impact destroyed both vessels, but it also opened a hole in the alien formation that other human fighters exploited. Jiwan coordinated the defense from the underground command center. She watched the tactical displays showing the battle unfolding in orbit. Humanity was losing ships at a terrible rate, but the aliens were losing more. Every alien vessel destroyed was one that couldn't occupy Earth. Every minute of fighting was time for the Retribution to complete its mission. Admiral, we're receiving surrender requests from several alien ships, a communications officer reported. Accept their surrender, Jiwan ordered. Any ship that withdraws from the battle gets safe passage. Broadcast that on all frequencies. Let every alien captain know they have a choice. It was psychological warfare at its finest. The aliens had come expecting to fight a desperate but ultimately doomed resistance. Instead, they found an enemy that fought with suicidal determination, while simultaneously offering mercy to those who quit. It created confusion and doubt in alien ranks. Back at the communication hub, the Retribution was in trouble. The 3 stealth ships had attacked together, but one had been destroyed immediately. The second was heavily damaged and withdrawing. That left Soman alone against impossible odds. We can't get through their defenses, her tactical officer reported. We've expended 70% of our weapons and we've barely scratched them. Soman looked at her crew. They were exhausted, bloodied, but none of them were suggesting retreat. They knew what was at stake. If the hub survived, the aliens could call for more reinforcements. The war would never end. She made a decision. Evacuate the ship. All crew to escape pods. That's in order. Sir? Her tactical officer stared at her. You heard me. Pods launch in 5 minutes. I'm going to finish this mission. Then we'll all finish it, the tactical officer replied. The rest of the crew nodded in agreement. Someone wanted to argue, wanted to order them to save themselves. But she understood. They had all volunteered for this mission knowing they might not return. They had made their peace with death. What they couldn't accept was failure. All right, she said quietly. Then we do this together. Set course directly for the hub. Maximum thrust. Transfer all power from shields to engines. We're going to ram that thing and make sure it never sends another message. The retribution accelerated toward the communication hub. The alien defenders fired everything they had at the approaching ship. The human vessel took hit after hit, armor ablating, systems failing, but it kept coming. Nari, monitoring the battle from Earth, saw what was happening and sent an emergency transmission to the retribution. Soman, I've uploaded a virus to your systems. When you hit that hub, your computer will interface with theirs for a few seconds. The virus will spread through their network. It won't destroy anything, but it will create delays, errors, corrupted data. It will give us an advantage. Received, Somin replied. Thank you, Nari, for everything. The retribution hit the communication hub at tremendous speed. The impact was catastrophic. The ship crumpled like paper, its fusion reactor going critical. The explosion tore a massive hole in the hub's structure. Atmosphere vented into space. Internal systems failed. And in those last few seconds before everything ended, Nari's virus spread through the alien network like wildfire. At the Galactic Council station, the representatives were monitoring the battle when suddenly all their displays went dark. The communication hub was offline. They had no contact with the pacification fleet, no way to send reinforcements or updated orders. What happened? The primary adjudicator demanded. The humans destroyed our communication hub, a technician reported. It's completely gone. The fleet at Earth is now operating independently. How long until we can establish alternative communications? Weeks, possibly months. The hub was our only relay in that sector powerful enough to coordinate fleet operations. The primary adjudicator sat down heavily. Without communications, the pacification fleet couldn't receive reinforcements. They couldn't coordinate with council forces. They were on their own. And if the reports from the battle were accurate, they were losing. At Earth, the tide was turning. News of the communication hub's destruction spread through both fleets. Human morale surged. Alien morale cracked. More alien ships began accepting the offer of surrender. Kyung, analyzing the battle data, made a crucial observation. The alien fleet is splitting. About 40% are withdrawing or surrendering. The rest are continuing to fight, but they're not coordinating effectively. Nari's virus is disrupting their communication even between ships in the same fleet. Deho saw his opportunity. He opened a channel to all alien vessels in the solar system. His voice was calm but carried absolute authority. Attention, all Galactic Council forces. Your communication hub is destroyed. You cannot call for help. You cannot receive new orders. You are alone in a hostile system, fighting an enemy that has already proven it can hurt you. I am offering you a choice. Surrender now, and you will be treated fairly according to the rules of war. You will be returned to your homes when this is over. Continue fighting and we will destroy every single one of your ships. Choose. Aboard the alien flagship, the fleet commander faced an impossible decision. They had come to exterminate a primitive species, and instead that species had cut them off from support and was offering mercy. The commander was a being from a species that had not fought a real war in over 5,000 years. The weight of command of being responsible for thousands of lives was crushing. What are your orders, Commander? The tactical officer asked. The fleet commander looked at the displays showing the battle. Human ships were still fighting with desperate ferocity. More than half the alien fleet was gone. Even if they won now, what would be left? A victory that cost 2,000 ships just to conquer one primitive world? All ships, cease fire, the commander ordered. Signal our surrender to the human fleet. The fighting stopped. An eerie silence fell over the solar system. Human ships and alien ships drifted in space, both sides exhausted, both sides bloodied, but the fighting was finally over. Deho stood on the bridge of the Harmony. barely believing what he was seeing. They had done it. They had actually done it. Humanity had fought the Galactic Council to a standstill. Yunji, who had been coordinating the science division throughout the battle, approached him. "Sir, we're receiving a message from the Galactic Council. They want to negotiate." "Of course they do," Deho said. "Now that they've lost, they want to talk. Tell them I'll speak with them. But we're done accepting their terms. From now on, we negotiate as equals or we don't negotiate at all." The negotiations took 3 weeks. The Galactic Council representatives wanted to salvage something from the disaster. Daiho, representing humanity, was firm in his demands. Earth would be recognized as a fully sovereign species with all rights and privileges. No custodianship, no oversight, no restrictions beyond what applied to all council members. The council resisted at first, but news of the battle had spread across the galaxy. Other species were watching, many of them asking uncomfortable questions about the council's authority. Some species that had been under various forms of council supervision were demanding their own independence. The council was facing a choice: recognize Earth as an equal, or face the possibility of their entire system of galactic governance collapsing. They chose to recognize Earth. The treaty was signed 2 months after the battle. Earth became the newest member of the Galactic Council, with full voting rights and representation. It was not the relationship the Council had intended, but it was the one humanity had forced them to accept. 1 year later, Deho stood on Earth watching ships arrive at the newly built orbital station. They weren't warships, they were civilian vessels, carrying immigrants from across the galaxy, species that had heard about Earth's fight for freedom, and wanted to come to the world that had stood up to the Council. Some were refugees from species that had been suppressed by the Council. Some were simply beings who admired humanity's courage. Earth was becoming something unexpected, a beacon for those who valued independence over security. Kyung approached with a report. 3 more species have requested Earth's assistance in renegotiating their Council agreements. They want us to advise them on how to stand up to Council pressure. Deho smiled, though there was sadness in it. We never wanted to be warriors. We wanted to explore, to learn, to be part of the galactic community. But they forced us to fight. And now we've changed everything, Kyung said. The Council will never be the same. The balance of power has shifted. Across the solar system, humanity was rebuilding. The EMP damage had been repaired. New ships were being built, incorporating both human ingenuity and carefully studied alien technology. A new military doctrine was being developed, one that ensured Earth would never again be vulnerable to threats from space. Jiwon, now the head of Earth's Strategic Defense Command, oversaw these developments. She had ensured that humanity's victory would not be temporary. Earth would remain strong, remain vigilant, remain ready. Minyo returned to the asteroid belt, where he led the civilian development of space industry. The asteroids that had been weapon platforms were being converted into mining stations and habitats. Humanity was expanding into the solar system, claiming its place among the stars. Nari continued her work in cyber warfare and intelligence, but now she was also teaching. A new generation of experts was being trained, people who would ensure Earth could defend itself in the digital realm as well as in physical space. Hieri became Earth's primary diplomat to the Galactic Council. She worked to build genuine relationships with other species, to find common ground and create alliances. It was slow work, but important. Earth needed friends in the galaxy, not just the respect born of fear. As for Taemin, he survived the battle but was badly injured. He recovered and was promoted to lead a new fighter training program. He taught young pilots the tactics that had worked against the aliens, ensuring that humanity's hard-won knowledge would not be lost. Yunji continued her research, studying alien technology and finding ways to integrate it with human innovation. She was creating something new, a hybrid approach that combined the best of both worlds. Deho, for his part, accepted the position of Earth's first ambassador to the Galactic Council. He traveled to the Council Station, the same place where Earth had been judged primitive just 2 years before. Now he walked those halls as an equal, representing a species that had earned its place through blood and sacrifice. At his first council session, he was approached by the primary adjudicator. The alien being, still bearing scars from the battle, looked at him with an expression that might have been respect. "You have changed the galaxy, Commander Deho," it said. "Many species now question the Council's authority. Some call it chaos, others call it freedom. What do you call it? Deho asked. The alien was silent for a moment. I call it a lesson. We thought we knew everything about civilization. We thought peace through superior technology and centralized authority was the only way. You showed us we were wrong. There are other paths, other ways to exist among the stars. We didn't want to teach you that lesson, Deho said. We just wanted to be free. Yes, the alien agreed. And that desire, that willingness to sacrifice everything for freedom, that is what we had forgotten. We had been comfortable for so long that we forgot what truly matters. Deho looked out at the assembled representatives from across the galaxy. Some watched him with curiosity, some with fear, some with admiration. Earth was no longer the primitive species begging for acceptance. They were a power in their own right, a reminder to every being in the galaxy of what could happen when you pushed someone too far. Later that day, Deho sent a message back to Earth, to all the people who had fought and sacrificed. We did it. We're not just survivors anymore. We're not just warriors. We're a sovereign species in a galaxy that finally recognizes our right to exist. The cost was high, but the victory is real. Earth stands free. On Earth, in cities rebuilt and people recovering, the message was received with celebration and tears. They had paid a terrible price, but they had won something precious, the right to chart their own course among the stars. The galaxy had called Earth primitive. They had thought humans were weak, foolish, trapped by outdated technology and violent instincts. They had been wrong about all of it. Humans weren't primitive. They were adaptive. They weren't weak. They were determined. And their violent history wasn't a weakness to overcome. It was a lesson learned over 40,000 years of survival. Never corner a predator, never threaten a species that remembers how to fight, and never ever underestimate what humans are capable of when everything they love is on the line. The galaxy learned that lesson the hard way, and it was a lesson they would remember for generations to come.